Hello friends. Today I went fishing at the river and I want to tell you about it. 10 tips for feeder fishing. I'm sure you'll find this useful, and the very first and most practical tip, a little digression. You know, the way I shoot videos for fishing, very often my friends and I go to these wild places where no one has been before, and we often clear away branches. Reeds, we clear all of this away to make space for fishing. The first rule that you should know for any fishing trip, friends, there is no place for you on the river. It's all common. As they say, the first one to put on the shoes gets the slippers. Even if you prepared this spot or set it up here, for example, if you arrive and it's taken, that's it. Go to another one. So today a similar story happened to me. I arrived at the place where I planned to fish, where I did everything, cleaned it clean, cool, tried, there was half a day, arrived, the place was taken. I didn't say anything at all, just turned around and went to the next spot. You should do the same because here everything is shared. This is your home. The next piece of advice sounds funny compared to the first. Prepare your spot, clean it up, take care of the grass after, and remove the weeds. Because it's nice to fish in a place that's clean, organized, and comfortable. You can walk around easily, and there are no snags or anything else. You can get through, or you can't, snags and everything else. So, try to do everything to ensure that everyone can fish comfortably. So why is feeder fishing great for catching fish from a distance? The fish moves away from the shore. It is afraid of people and large fish and in general different schools of fish. Now it's further from the shore because there's noise and hubbub here and they're swimming along the riverbed. Where it's not so hot, where there's oxygen and everything else, that's why feeder fishing is always great. I fish with gear from the Flagman company. These are rods. I have a budget one with a channel feeder, with a reel from River Feeder 5000, with which I have been fishing for more than 3 years. Guys, the rods are very cheap. I like them. You know, there are rods. You take the butt. Thick, like a stick, but a bit rough. Here everything is delicate and inexpensive, so if you are interested, this rod will really leave you satisfied. The links will be in the description. I'm still collecting and will continue with you further. You know, I often see comments from you, Seryoga, what is this cool suitcase you have where you carry all your fishing gear and that chair you sit on? Guys, this is a mini platform. Flagman is a platform that I fell in love with a long time ago, and this is probably one of the best things I have for fishing. The platform itself is like a suitcase, inside of which are all my boxes, cases with gear. You can hang accessories on the side of the platform, whether it's a big box for bait or a little table. And this wonderful rod holder, which can be adjusted for length and angle, is called the feeder arm. You've already seen that I have a syringe. Friends, today I'm going to show you how to make maggots float using a small puncture. My next tip for you is to always check the bottom using a marker weight. Marker cargo is cargo with its ears and paws above it, like a small bomb, a sea mine, with the help of which you can break through the bottom, understand what is there, grass, a shell, not a shell, and everything else. Even if you were fishing here yesterday, come and check it out. Maybe something has changed, like a bush or some grass has come in or something else, so you don't end up feeding the fish in vain. Yes, marker checks might take you a little time, but it's precious time that you won't waste later when you're reeling in a fish. You won't have any snags, tangles, or anything like that. Make sure to use a marker. I've explained how to do this many times before. After all this, we start with the baiting. There are a lot of different baits. There are yellow baits, dark baits, baits for carp, baits for sharks, baits for chub, whatever you want. But that doesn't mean that if it's for sharks, it will catch a shark, right? Guys, choose your bait according to the season. Usually it's common to use light bait in the summer and dark bait in the fall and winter. We'll just do it that way. And here's another tip for you. Always add some kind of porridge to your bait in the summer. It could be millet, wheat porridge, pearl barley, or bulgur. We cooked it at home in a pot and added it. It won't take you much time or money. The next important part about baiting is how to moisten it. Add a lot of water or just a little. If you want to catch roach or bream, the bait needs to be dusty. It should create a bit of murkiness and shouldn't be heavy but should be fine dispersion, meaning the particles should be small. If you want to catch bream, crucian carp, or other fish, your bait needs to be on the bottom. It should be well moistened and there must be large particles in it. So Either you add them yourself, as I said, to the porridge, or you choose a bait that already has those large particles. Guys, believe me, when I tell you all this, I don't want to deceive you. I'm not competing with you. I'm only sharing what I've learned from my personal experience, from my many fishing trips. Over all these years at the river and the reservoir, I'm just an ordinary fisherman like you. And I fish just the same with simple tackle. What's the most delicate part of a feeder? That's right, friends, this is the quiver tip. Its tip. To make sure you don't break it here, at this first part, I always recommend keeping the line tight. Never give slack. How do I do it? When I open the bail, my finger always looks like this when casting. And right before the cast, when the feeder is already pulled down and everything is taut there, I make this movement. If everything moves freely and nothing is getting caught, it means I don't have any tangles. 100% the top. And I can throw it perfectly. I won't break anything. It may sound funny, but over the years it becomes subconscious. Every time, check like this to make sure nothing is getting caught. So, we've already chosen a spot, we've cleaned it up, we've marked it with a weight, and we've baited the area. What to fish with? What to fish with, damn it, to get a bite. Look, the maggot is working the best right now. Wheat and pearl barley. Of course, bloodworms if you can buy them, and dung worms. Maybe in other places something is caught on other gear, but where I fish in my region, these are the best baits. You shouldn't go fishing without maggots. If you have bloodworms, you will simply be the king of fishing. It's really hard to buy bloodworms. Right now in the summer, they don't last long at all. That is, you bought it today. If it's hot outside, by the end of fishing it will be rotten. Either you're going for the night, then you won't have any problems with bloodworms. The main thing with bloodworms is transportation. Back when I used to go fishing at the reservoir, I was just smashing them on bloodworms, guys. It was awesome. In winter, spring, summer, and autumn. 1 maggot, 3-4 bloodworms. Phew, man, the bream are just biting like crazy. But I also had this one time while fishing when I was fishing and someone nearby was catching. Seryoga Ivanovic is catching roach on pearl barley. I'm fishing from a great spot. I baited with some shellfish, but I'm not getting any bites. I take some pearl barley from him, put 2 grains on the feeder, and I'm getting some nice bites from the roach. There are times when fish bite on grains. It's better in this warm weather to use something like this rather than worms, maggots, and other baits. These are the kinds of baits, so you should always have some plant-based baits with you too. We don't know what the fish are biting on today and what they'll be biting on tomorrow. The funniest thing is, you might ask, Seryoga, why do you need a syringe? Sometimes I fish in the current or I fish in the water column. The fish doesn't stay right on the bottom. It either stays on the bottom or somewhere in the middle. Yes, I can make a thin leader. It will fall more slowly. But if I pierce the maggot and pump it with air, our maggot will float right on the surface. I want to tell you right away that this life hack only works with maggots. It won't work with any other bait. So what are we doing? I take 1 maggot. Of course, the maggot has to be alive, good and whole. And we thread that maggot onto the hook. We thread it on carefully. There are also many ways to put a maggot on the hook. Now I'll show you all of them. Look, here's the maggot. We throw it into the water, and of course it sinks. You can see right away that it's sinking. The weight of the hook and the maggot is on the bottom. Here it is, the maggot on the hook with the insulin syringe. And carefully make a puncture with the syringe. There's nothing in it, just air. We make the puncture carefully at the edge under the skin. The syringe must be an insulin one. If it's a different type, it won't work. Look right away. The larva has inflated. It has become huge. So, this is just a huge one, I would say. And this larva will now float. Let's check it. We throw it in. Look here in the water. The larva is just floating. See? This way, along the entire length of our leader, no matter how long it is, the feeder will be on the bottom, while the bait will be floating in the water column. We can add a second maggot or give it a bloodworm, and they will all float at the top. Even if we add a second partner to the inflated maggot, they will still float together. He's holding it. Look, one is moving, and the second one is moving too. Look at this bait. What could be better for active fish? That takes from the water column or from the surface. And by the way, notice that I collected the water from the river. Look at how much life is there. That's all some kind of little creatures, bugs and larvae, guys. I collected water from the river, right here, literally, right under our feet. And then we wonder why the fish aren't biting today. So here's the answer. Look at how much food is there. We need to do something exclusive for it. The eternal question that worries everyone. Leader, what length and diameter should the leader be? Friends, you should never be picky about 50 centimeters, or 60, or 55, 52, 53. To be honest, I always do it by eye, about 50 centimeters. My standard leader for feeder fishing, I want to catch some fish in the water column. I see they're there up to a meter. I've never made it 2 meters or 1.5. It's uncomfortable to fish like that. So about 50, 60 or 70 centimeters for bream. We make a leash if the roach can play a little more, but it depends on what kind of bottom you have, where you're fishing, and what the current is like. You need to take that into account. The diameter of the leash is always a golden rule. The thinner the better, because even now in the summer the fish are cautious. Big, they are so afraid, they are apprehensive. And we always, if we can do it thin, but even if you put the leader and you have a bite, there will be bream and roach biting, it will still catch fish. But it would be best if you did, for example. The thinner, the better. Remember this. Sometimes it happens that you arrive at the fishing spot, mix up a lot of bait out of foolishness, and then it's left over. What to do with it? How can I preserve it to use on the next fishing trip? Guys, I've tried just about everything in my time, even freezing it. I dried it and rolled it into balls and sifted it at home in the sun. It will still spoil and go bad. It's best when you take it home, put it in a bag and immediately throw it in the fridge. Or it's best to put it in the freezer. If you are going fishing tomorrow or the day after tomorrow, put it in the refrigerator in the 0 chamber where the temperature is 0, there +1, +2. If you're going fishing later, like next weekend, just throw it in the freezer, then take it out in the evening to thaw it, already frozen in ice, and leave it until morning. We have all sorts of other ways you might need. If it goes bad, it will start to smell, and it will just freeze onto the hooks, guys. I have a lot of hooks. I've already run out of empty packs. You see, there's nothing here, but my favorite numbers are, of course, 14, 12, 16. Something like that shows great results. These are the kinds of hooks. Made from red wire, meaning hooks bar made from red wire attract fish. It's always good in winter and summer. I noticed that, you see, this is the red wire for the hooks. Again, who catches what? I prefer thinner line, smaller hooks. It's a more sporty setup. Some people like thicker line and bigger hooks, thinking they'll catch more. They say everyone has their own preferences, but in reality, friends, no one ever really knows the right way to fish, where to fish, or what to use. It's all just fishing tales, fantasies, and myths, with some specific rules and methods here and there. But the rule is like, this is how you catch fish, so it should be done this way, but no one really knows what's best. You always have to try and always aim for what you can catch, meaning you should go out with a good attitude, so something will come your way. At the very least, you'll have a great time. Friends, here's another little tip from me. Look, Sarah, when you cast and fish with one rod, bam, the rod goes past the clip. You put it on the stand and rest the butt on your knee and just sit there quietly, don't move. Why is that on your knee? If you get a bite right away, you just bam, your hand is right here. With the butt on your knee, you immediately set the hook and start working. While you put it on the stand, move it back and forth. But that's, of course, if the bite is active. If the bite is weak, yeah, put it on the stand. I do that often myself. And just sit there watching, but often it happens, you just cast and put it on your knee. And you sit there waiting for every little bite. It's also really cool when you're not just resting it on your knee, but you also keep your hand on it. Just like this, you place your finger here at any moment, be ready to lift your rod to work, and you'll feel the bite. Even if you turn away, you'll still feel the hit. The fish will bite, there will be a nod, a kind of tremor. You might even feel it in your leg. If you have your finger here, you'll immediately sense it. It transmits right here. We're all used to putting maggots on like this. We look for the head, where the two little dots are, and we thread it through the very edge. Both of them are twitching like this, wobbling around. But there are days and situations when the fish completely refuse to bite, and they only bite like this, when the maggot is threaded like a worm. meaning we take it by the head and thread it through like a stocking. Oh, the hook is hidden, just the tip is sticking out. Just the tip, you might ask, what's the difference, right? What does that fish need? But no way, it just wants to bite like that, and that's it. Who knows what's going on in her head? And if we hook it with a stocking and pump it up, can you believe it? Look at what a bait we have here. Oh, it's just great. This maggot will now float. If you have the option to choose when to go fishing, in the evening or early in the morning, I would choose early morning. Now I'll explain why. Everything is very simple, just like in spinning. We have a day, part of which is night. During the day, the fish are active. They eat something, have a snack, it's hot, they swim around, and at night they sleep. It's precisely when the fish, especially the whitefish, are sleeping at night that they feed less than during the day. And in the morning, it starts munching away. Even if it's feeding well at night, in the morning it finishes up and then leaves. Somewhere to hide from predators or wait out the heat. So it's always best to fish very early in the morning. I've often had it where I come to fish for bream, which is supposed to be a night fish. You'd think bream, bite at night. You spend the whole evening feeding them, from 10 p.m. to 1 a.m., just feeding and feeding this little river pig. Not biting. It's not biting at 1 in the morning, not at 2, not at 3. In the morning, dawn begins, and you get your first bites from bream, and they bite steadily, until around 7 or 8. So the entire amount of fish that I catch it during the early morning twilight. Yeah, I was feeding, it was awesome, but man, it really happened during the early morning twilight. Why is that? Nobody knows. Interval for recasting. How often should we recast the feeder, guys? Well, I like to recast often, but again, it depends on what kind of fish we are catching. If we are catching roach, I recast once a minute at 2, depending on how good it is. But as a rule, if it is a reservoir or a river, a good place is well fed. Everything is chosen correctly in a minute. There will be a bite for sure. If not, what do? We take and do a little reeling in. Now I'll tell you how it's done. Our task, when our feeder is on the bottom, is to pull the feeder slightly while the hook link is a bit further out. This way, we pull the feeder, creating an effect of cloudiness here, and our hook link. Next, with the bait that's behind the feeder, it will be pulled slightly, so the bait will make a movement just above the bottom. The fish that swims at the top looks at this food and eats it. It will see the movement of the bait, and usually a bite happens right away. Right away, in 2-3 seconds. You'll have a bend in the quiver tip, so try this as well, as you suggested in the comments, not just reeling in. Here's the reel. When I do the reeling in, the quiver tip is tight, and I slightly reel in just half a turn when the quiver tip is tight. I'm reeling in. Our task is for the quiver tip to keep going like this. Then okay, I leaned back a bit under tension. You advise me, Sergey, just take it like this and lift the rod, lean it back, and then lift it right away. So don't pull the feeder, just slightly lift it off the bottom and then drop it back down. This also helps. Write to me in the comments what you used and which method you like best. Lifting or just pulling. Just in case, I'll leave links to all my gear in the description. Maybe you'll find it interesting. The rod has a cork handle, a good, not too thick butt. It's well made, guys. It's delicate by itself and catches any fish really well. But what I personally like about it is its sensitivity. I see a bite, a tiny one, even from small roach, small bream, and crucian carp. I see everything. The bites are just amazing. The drag on this budget reel works just fine. She's powerful, and for 3 years, damn, she's my top one. If I need to grab something, I take it right away without thinking. I have many expensive rods, but I like this one because it is thin and graceful. And I love this one. I hope you liked something from this video, something was new, something you knew. You will like and subscribe, because it is your support that, so to speak, stimulates me to release new videos. And if you like this format, the video I made now conversational with tips and answers to questions, feel free to write about it in the comments. In general, when you write something, I try to respond to you guys as much as I can in a timely manner. But I read all the comments, everything you write, I see it all. Here's everything I need for fishing. Feeder platform, say with that bait. I've got everything with me.